update. I broke up with my ex that got the 87K truck, which I found out was actually 95K. Original post. I am very annoyed. He didn't even speak to me about it. We had so many discussions about moving in together, getting married, and then he goes and purchases a truck 2K more than his yearly salary. If you're asking how can a truck be 87K, that's the price you get when you put every addition you want on it. He showed me the truck expecting me to be excited, and I was livid. When he bought this truck, we were only a month from moving in together. We got into a bad argument where he told me it was his money and he could do whatever he wanted with it. So I said fine, and I told him I'm not comfortable moving in with him anymore. I asked my landlord if my apartment was still available and if I could renew my lease, and they said yes. Now, my boyfriend is saying he can't afford his place and his truck. You should have thought of that before buying something so expensive without talking to your girlfriend of 2 years. I have had some of his friends' girlfriend reach out to me and say I should support him, and one even say that I'm not loyal, and this shows I wouldn't support him if we were married, since I run away when finances get bad. That's BS. He didn't lose his job or get hurt. He bought an expensive item without discussing it. I have been trying to get him to return the truck because it's already affecting his finances badly. He has only had this truck for 2 weeks, and he is worried that in the next month or two, he won't be able to cover all the expenses he usually has. This past weekend, we had another argument, and I think our relationship is going to end. I'm not helping him pay for this truck, and I'm not moving in with him. I've asked for a break and will be thinking about what to do. Now for the advice before reading the update. Yeah, no, you were right to put yourself first. He's going to end up drowning in debt. At least you won't be there to see it. Would imagine he thought he could make you take the majority of rent and household expenses while he just put money in his truck. Nailed it. Boyfriend only bought the truck because he was moving in with OP. He snitched on himself when he told her he couldn't afford his own place plus truck payments. The minute he was expecting you to help finance his life, it ceased to be his money. You absolutely did the right thing. That man was going to use you to pay for his expensive truck. Ask your friend's girlfriend if they want to give up their life to finance his mistakes, because you sure as heck won't, and shouldn't. It'd only get worse if you enable him. He'd be coming home with a Ferrari next. Good job recognizing a bad situation when you see one. This dude fully expected you to supplement his lifestyle after moving in together. All his money would have gone to paying that truck, leaving you stuck with the lion's share of the bills. And that's why he's panicking now. Stay in your own apartment, Opie. And he had the audacity to say that it was his money and he could do what he wanted with it, knowing full well he would have to live out of the truck if OP didn't supplement for him. Really tells you what he thinks about OP's money, that it's his money too. Entitled butt. I would dump him so hard. Reeks of my money is mine but your money is ours. Dump any moron who spends $1,700 a month on a 5-year loan for a toy while being unable to make rent. Not to mention this dude works from home. He's going to be using that 87K truck to do basic errands. Edit. I appreciate the different opinions everyone has given me. I have a lot to think about. To answer 2 questions, no, he doesn't need a truck. He works from home, and if he has to check in at work, he has an office. Also, his friends and their girlfriends know about this issue because he asked for their views when we went to a get-together last week. Only 2 girlfriends reached out to me to tell me I wasn't being supportive. The others have minded their business. Now for the update a week later. Yeah, so I broke up with him mainly because I realized we aren't financially compatible. Before I go into what happened, I do want to say something. I understand we weren't married, but we were both moving together into a new place and had several discussions about this move and our plans for the future, including marriage. For the people private messaging me saying it's his money and he can do whatever he wants, or you're only 2 years into a relationship, you're not a wife, I know that. And I have never asked what is in his bank account or told him what to do financially. I'm aware it is his money, but I also know his financial situation. And he was making decisions without my input that, if we were to stay together, would not only affect him, but also our relationship and our financial situation for years to come. I will die on this hill. This is not okay. And if it's okay for you, that's fine. But for me, if we make a financial plan and you make a huge decision without me, I won't be okay with it. And that's a big reason why I backed out of moving into a new apartment with him. I would have never made a decision like this without his input at all. The main reason why we decided to move in together was to take the next step in our relationship, but also to pay down our debts. I now have 22K debt from student loans and a car. When I met him though, it was around 60K, and I was basically living on credit cards. Within the first couple of months of us dating, I saw how hard he worked, and with a salary at 85K, he was making a huge progress in paying off his loans and credit cards. On my end at the time, I was only making 50K. I honestly saw his work ethic and was like, wow, and got serious about my debt. I got a second part-time job where I was making 32K a year, bringing my salary to 82K. I did that so that I could pay off my debts faster, but also so that we could be on equal footing when we moved in together, and he didn't have to pay significantly more in living expenses than me when he had more debt. We did a complete budget months before we moved in together and realized that we would each have $700 extra a month to put towards our own individual budgets. This is why the purchase of this truck was so surprising to me. We had planned this move for months. We had a budget and he destroyed that plan with a truck. If he wanted a new car, there are plenty of cars he could have gotten that would have fit into the $700 monthly surplus he had. Anyway, for the past few days before we broke up, he tried to show me that this truck was a good financial purchase and we could still move in together. He told me that he had actually budgeted for this and could show me how he could afford this. I wanted to hear him out, so I went to his place and he had two budgets. He said he had been thinking of getting this truck for some time and he had worked out a budget beforehand. He showed me the first budget, and after his truck, insurance expenses, and his debts, he was left with $115 for the month. I noticed with the first budget, he didn't include groceries, his hobbies, going out, or even gas for his car. I asked him how $115 was enough to live off of for an entire month. I asked him how he could afford all of this and his truck, and if he planned to give up some things. He said no, he didn't plan to give up anything and that he would make everything work in his budget. I asked him what if he had an emergency or needed gas for his truck, and he just kept saying he would work it out without explaining how. After I saw the first budget, I asked to see the documents for the car, and that's how I found out the truck price was $95K total after taxes, registration, and fees. He traded in his reliable 2003 Toyota and all his savings to get a loan at 14% for 72 months. His monthly payment is now $1,966 and insurance is $573. He also still has student loans, which are significant. I kept telling him $115 left over monthly wasn't enough. That's when he showed me a second budget, which had a combined higher monthly income. I asked him if he was getting a second job, and he said due to his job relying on him to be on call, he couldn't. I asked where the income was coming from, and this man said, "Well, you're getting a raise soon." I froze because I had mentioned this raise once months ago. My first job is my career job, and I work in a field where when you hit certain milestones, you get a pay bump. In September, if my raise is approved, I will go from 50K to 80K. And with my second job, my total yearly income will be 112K. But getting the raise isn't a guarantee. You have to meet certain criteria, and if you don't, you have to wait 3 months before trying again. When he said that, I was quiet, and then I said, "So you planned a budget that included additional income that I wouldn't get for at least 6 months, and income that I might not even get in September?" He said when I got my raise, the ratio of what he would pay would decrease and he would have more disposable income. I asked him why it was okay for him to plan budgets with my income, yet I had no say in how he spent his. He couldn't answer that. I told him I had no issue with paying more bills if I got a raise, but the fact that he banked on that, didn't discuss it, and now expects me to be okay with this is ridiculous. I also said there's no way I wouldn't be paying more with the first budget because he wouldn't have been able to survive on $115. I told him he didn't communicate, and this is on him because he made huge financial plans without discussing anything. Finally, I told him I would never have done any of this without going to him first because I thought we were a team that was building something. I ended things the next day and he has been trying to reach out, but I'm not interested. He has financially crippled himself with his truck. If with my income now, he could barely make it, he sure isn't making it on his own. I really hope that things work out for him and he is able to keep his truck and recover. But I'm not paying the consequences for such a massive financial mistake that is going to usually affect him for years to come. If I were to stay, this financial decision affects me as well and would continue to affect both of us for years. Again, this is different from becoming ill or losing a job. He chose this and refuses to budge and fix it. I now realize we are not financially compatible, and that's okay, and I wish him the best. Edit. Thanks everyone for all the support. I don't hate my ex, and I really hope he's able to recover from this. It was such a learning lesson for me in how one mistake can ruin you financially. It has made me even more cautious, but also determined to keep working towards a better financial future for myself. You are very smart. I have a wife like you, and we are going to retire comfortably because of that. People who will give her grief over this either have no idea how marriage is supposed to work or are bad with their finances. Financial incompatibility is a huge deal in relationships, and she's being incredibly mature here. Wholeheartedly agree. The fact that he is making all of these decisions that impact their stability and goals without actually speaking to her is incredibly selfish. I don't remember correctly, but I believe that in the last post, his family was giving Opie a hard time about her not moving in and being happy about the purchase. At this point, I don't think he was upfront and honest with them. Well, since they feel like they can give input into a relationship that is not theirs, then they can help pay for the truck. Opie, the people who private message you knew that what they were saying was wrong. Your instinct and maturity are commendable. And while spending her paycheck. Dude, 14% interest is absurd. That's an insane amount of money to pay for any vehicle. 14% is absurd, but that's what happens when your credit is ruined and you make bad financial decisions. Seems dude hasn't learned anything. Lol. That what I was thinking. If his rate is 14%, then that means he has a sub 500 score. Opie, you truly dodged a bullet there. My fiancé died a horrible death, and if he were alive, I'd dump him. I, 33 female, met my fiancé, 30 male, let's call him Mike, in 2021. We met the old-fashioned way on a dating app. We had a lot of common interests and hit it off right away. A few months into dating, he told me he had a heart condition that was flaring up. I was already in love, so I told him we'd face it together. He decided to stop working because his health was so bad, but had a family friend who would help keep him afloat financially. My daughter from my previous marriage loved him, and we were a happy little family. He paid his own way, bought my daughter sweet gifts, was thoughtful. I did nearly all physical labor, including cleaning and shopping and getting his meds and taking him to appointments. When I felt able, he'd cook. Fast forward to August 2023 and Mike gets much worse. He's in and out of hospitals with stage 4 heart failure. By December, he ends up at another hospital almost 2 hours away. I know this is the end. He's progressively getting worse. He hasn't accepted it, but I know it's coming. I know this is the last time I'm driving him to the hospital. By January, he's hooked up to an ECMO and dialysis. By February, he's intubated and only speaking in blinks. He passed away early February. Here's where my rage comes in. Everything this man ever told me was a lie. He told me he was keeping his car in the garage because the registration expired. The family friend that supported him for the past 2 years had co-signed on that car. Turns out, he hasn't paid anything on it. That friend is now on the hook for the entire cost of the car. Meanwhile, he was blowing money on the dumbest things, like a $700 ice maker. He told me he'd gotten sick after we met. Nope, he'd been sick for years and knew his life would be short. He'd been telling me the entire time that he had a savings account he wouldn't touch, and when he died, it would go to my daughter. Never existed. Told me his friend had his motorcycle in his garage. Never existed. Kept referencing his storage unit. Doesn't exist. Mind you, I never asked for any of this. I never wanted money. I do fine on my own. Every day, more and more lies come out. Everyone keeps telling me how lucky he was to have us in the end. But what about us? Were we just meant to be a prop in this man's story? My daughter isn't even 4 and has lost 2 dads. Now here I am, with everything this man ever owned. His ashes. His entire life belongs to me. Everyone sees me as his widow. But no one knows that if he were alive and I found all this out, I would have walked away and never looked back. I spent 2 years taking care of him, and all he ever gave me was lies. It's all such a damn waste. Edit. 1. The old-fashioned way was a joke, y'all. 2. I'm venting on an anonymous Reddit post. this doesn't impact him. He's dead. All y'all coming to his defense acting like I'm besmirching his name are weird. 3. I didn't ask for nor need his money. I do fine on my own. I paid for him more than the other way around. The point was the lies and all the backstory he made up to support them over the years. 4. I made a mistake by being with this man, bringing him into my daughter's life. I have to live with that guilt for the rest of my life. Calling me a horrible mom doesn't make me feel any worse than I already do. But thanks for trying. 5. If you think I'm mad about the money, I'm going to ask you to think a little deeper. Imagine you found out your spouse had built lore around random lies, brought other people into it, screwed over loved ones. Suddenly it makes you question everything. Now for the comments. I completely get your point in anger. He used you as a glorified housekeeper, nursemaid, and personal assistant. If he would have said that he didn't have anything, then I think this would have been a better scenario. You could have just gone on with your lives and mourned him. It was the lies and deceit. Also, I'm a bit surprised that you didn't ask him for all the info, just in case something ever happened to him, or at least towards the end. At the same time, you were also taking other people's word about some of his stuff. If you have all of his belongings, go through his desk or files to see what you can find. Cars, motorcycles, saving accounts, and storage units may be of value to others and they might be lying to you. Do a little more digging before you completely disregard it all. Word of mouth is not necessarily valid. If you can, run his social security number and/or background check. It should show if he had bank accounts and storage units. I tried to get information out of him. I kept asking to sit down and go over financials and he'd push it off. He procrastinated a lot. Looking back, that should have been a red flag. And everything I've listed here was verified information. I'm 100% positive. Who the heck did I almost marry? I was gonna say, damn, I'm glad they didn't get married. Should have been on the hook for all his debt, including that car. Unfortunately, the guy who was helping him out financially is on the hook for the car and probably dealing with a huge hit on his credit because the fiancé who didn't care about his credit dragged his benefactor down with him. After my dad died, we found out about a crap ton of lies. He and my mom were married for 40 years. There's money missing. Land that should be ours that was sold without our knowledge. Friends keep coming telling us he owed them money. Lawsuits being filed against us on his behalf. It hurts like hell. I love him beyond words, but I'm more the dad I thought I had, not the one I'm getting to know now. I wish you strength to go through this. My heart goes out to you.